I've had more drummers on my show than like any other person in a band. I don't know if you ever listen. I've had so many drummers, Chris, on my show.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry about that.
No, I think Tommy Price might have told me this, the drummer from Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. He told me that if you ever want to know anything that's going on in a band, ask the drummer.
I've heard that. Sure. Yeah. We're like the catcher on the team, on a baseball team.
You guys know everything. You're in the back.
We're in the center of it all.
Everything's in front of you. So, I think he meant like as far as like practices, as far as in band turmoil, as far as anything. The drummer somehow ends up being the guy that knows everything.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I got a few stories. Well, we'll tell them on a different podcast.
I'm not going to dig too much dirt up on other people and other bands. Because I know you did a gig last night, by the way. I just happened to notice that on social media today.
Yeah.
Played with Chris Cody last night.
Yeah. Chris Cody, along with Jim Haggerty on bass and Rusty Scott on keys. Really fun. We do that once a month.
What did you do?
We're just doing like a lot of it's like soul, R&B, blues kind of stuff, Really, really great, fun gig once a month at Sally's,
Like, do you guys rehearse, or do you just?
We don't.
You just give you a set list, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that how Chris?
Yeah.
Chris, for people who don't know, was in the Upper Crust. He's the bass player of the Upper Crust, and he does a lot of cover band stuff around town, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. He does the Zeppelin thing.
I saw that
with Joe Musella, and also Jim Haggerty, and he does, and he can sing anything, so he can really cover a lot of different genres, and he sings this soul stuff great that we do at Sally's, like Solomon Burke and Little Milton, and Eddie Floyd. He can just do all that stuff.
That's Sally O'Brien's in Union Square.
Yep.
Somerville.
Yep.
Chris, where'd you grow up, man? And when did you start listening to music? Can you remember that far back?
Yep. I can still remember that far back. That's good. Medford. Grew up in Medford.
You did?
Yep. And it's all my brother, my older brother, Steve. He's my musical influence. He's my first musical influence. He would bring records home. He would, make me listen to stuff. I remember him making me listen to, not making me, but, introducing me to the Cars and Kiss and Boston and Zeppelin and the Beatles and just all the classic stuff. And that's what I started listening to first, and he was a big influence. He's 11 years older than me. So when I'm 8, 9 years old, he's already out going to shows. The drinking age was 18 back then, And he was already out seeing shows. He saw the Police before they were big. He saw, he was a late teen in the late 70s. And so he would come home and tell me about shows and, make me little mixtapes. And yeah.
Medford's kind of a famous place to people in Boston, but people outside of Boston don't really know much about Medford.
Is Medford famous?
Tufts University. Well, Medford, the way that people say it, it's like, is there any famous people that came from Medford besides yourself that
Good Lord.
Hockey players,
right?
Well,
for one thing, I'm not famous, but that's kind of it.
A lot of hockey players come from Medford.
I think it was Keith Kachuk.
Keith Kachuk.
Yeah, he came from Medford. And
wow, he's probably a Hall of Famer.
You know what? I think he might be. He might be in the Hall. I don't know. Was it not Amelia Earhart? Amelia Earhart's sister lived in Medford.
The subway finally made it to Medford. Well, the orange line I think went there, but the green line goes to Medford now, right?
Is there a stop? Oh yeah, by Tufts. There's the one up by Tufts. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And it came to Ball Square too now.
Yeah, well, you have a record store, Stereo Jacks, which we're going to talk about later, and that's. Yeah. I always thought that was Medford, but now it's Somerville.
It's
Somerville. Right on the line.
It really is right on the line, because I grew up around the corner from there, and we were we were 50 yards away from the line. Yeah. But yeah, the green line, it is cool, man, definitely, especially for the tough students. That's good for them.
I went a little out of order, but I'm known for that. So do you remember when you were younger, the first bands that you actually got to see? Like, did you go to concerts when you were young?
Yeah, I waited a bit. Like, I know I have some friends who were saw their first concert at 12, and I didn't go to a concert, I think, until I was 15 or 16. I saw Rush.
Rush was your first?
Yep.
Wow.
That was my first concert. It was fantastic.
Are you a Neil Peart fan?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm a huge Rush fan. I love it, and I don't play that way. I can't play that way. I don't know how to. I could never pull off that kind of drumming, but I love it. I love Rush. Yeah.
Were you already playing drums at that point?
Yeah. Yeah, I started when I was 14.
14.
Yeah.
Did you have any bands when you were young?
I didn't get into like a band until I was like about 18. I was in a band with a bunch of, local, like you do, local friends in the neighborhood. A band called Duncan, Idaho. And it was good. We played.
Duncan, Idaho.
Yeah, named after a character from the movie Dune, because I'm also a nerd.
Did you come up with the name?
And I didn't, but I was very happy about it.
Did you guys do clubs and stuff?
Yeah,
or-
we did. We played Club 3.
Oh,
We-
yeah.
Yeah, we played TTs. We were really young, but we actually played out quite a bit. Yeah, we were all just 18, 19, 20 years old, but we actually played quite a bit.
Were there guys in that band that you still know that still play, or besides yourself?
The singer actually, it's funny, we were all 18 and 19, but the singer was like 30. He was this guy from Barbados named Shirley Stewart. And so we were a pretty unique band for the area. We didn't get very far, but we were pretty unique. A bunch of kids playing with this like older guy from Barbados, playing kind of pop rock kind of stuff. And it was a fun band, and we worked quite a bit actually. It was I got a lot of experience at a pretty young age.
You said you were like 18 or 19.
Yeah.
Were you in college? Did you go to college?
Yeah, I went to Bunker Hill for a few
Community
years.
college.
Did that, yeah, and didn't do much there. My academic career is very, very it's spotty.
But as far as playing goes, did you start getting in other bands after that band?
Yeah. Actually, right after that, I got into a band called Inertia, high school buddies. When we went to high school together, and we formed this band when we were like 20, 21. And that band worked a lot too, actually. And in fact, we're getting back together. We just got the band back together.
What kind of music?
Indie 90s pop rock kind of stuff. And yeah, after 30 years later, we're actually rehearsing the last few weeks.
That's fantastic.
It's actually been really nice. It's nice to play with guys, now in our 50s that we played together in our early 20s, and it's really cool to hear our old rehearsal tapes and hear how we played then, and and how we're playing now. It's really, really nice.
You have a very diversified group of people that you've played with. You're kind of all over the place. What drummers would you say kind of influenced you? And were you going for that style or that type of band, or did it not matter?
I think every musician is influenced by a number of bands, and sometimes influenced. You don't even realize you're influenced by a certain drummer until maybe one day you do something and you go, oh yeah, that's right. Like, yeah, that guy did influence. You know what I mean? So for me, it was like Ringo and Charlie Watts and Keith Moon and John Bonham. Those are my
rock
teenagers.
drummers.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely rock. I mean, I've played a lot of blues over the years, but I grew up listening to rock. I mean, that's the stuff that was. And then as I got older, I got into jazz and guys like Elvin Jones and Art Blakey, and so. You start not having a favorite anymore as so much as you have like a bunch of favorites.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're still a student?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So
Yeah.
you hear a lot of things, and that you learn more and more as you go along as a drummer.
Absolutely. You really can't think that you've ever learned it all, by any stretch. And in fact, I went back and studied with my old teacher that I studied with in my early 20s. I went back and studied with him about 6 or 7 years ago.
You became a teacher yourself, which I was going to ask you about later on.
A little
right?
bit, yep.
Yeah.
Did some teaching, yep.
Now, forgive me for not having the correct timeline on some of these bands you played with, but I know that Roomful of Blues is a very famous band, and you were with them for a little while. Was that one of the first bigger bands that you were in?
That was probably, one of the bigger name things, definitely. And I played with them from like 2016 to just this past June, last summer.
Oh, so that was recent.
Yeah, I left last summer.
Okay,
yeah.
so was there something before? Like, you play with Little Joe Cook too, right?
I played with Little Joe Cook for about 8 months in my mid-20s, which was really fun.
Was that at the Cantab Lounge right down the street here?
Yeah,
Because that's where he was the house band, right?
I subbed for his drummer, who I forget what happened. He broke his leg or something, and I did like about six or 8 months as the Cantab house drummer and Joe's drummer, and that was quite an experience.
Always a room full of people, right?
Yeah, I've never been yelled at so much in my life.
He passed away not too long ago.
Yeah, I can't remember when it was. I think it was maybe sometime in the last maybe 6 or 7
So,
years. He lived to be 90, I think.
Yeah, local Cambridge
Yeah.
famous guy,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, he would. Yeah, you're right. He would pack that place. I also spent from like 2000 to 2015. I spent 15 years in a really great band called Johnny Hoya and the Bluefish, and that Martha's Vineyard based band. You know, they didn't maybe have the same.
Were you
know,
living in the vineyard?
No, I was commuting like a lunatic.
I love Martha's Vineyard,
It's
man.
beautiful. Yeah. But, that wasn't as big a name band as Roomful, but a killer band where I really learned a lot about playing a lot and, playing a lot of different kinds of music in that band.
I imagine it was all in the summer months, though, right?
Yeah, we were decently busy in the winter, but the summers were just ridiculous. Yeah, I was, I did that for 15 years and had to call it a day. I had too many trips down there, But it was a great experience playing with those guys. They're like family to me now,
I was looking at your discography and I saw some other people on here. I'm going to save Juliana for a bit because I want to
sure,
talk
yeah.
about Juliana Hatfield a little more. Teresa Storch, I actually knew, and I didn't know you played on her record, and I just discovered that recently.
Yeah, a
'Cause she
couple
did
songs,
a lot
yeah.
of acoustic, but then she made a record and had some instrumentation.
Yeah.
And she's out in Colorado now or something?
She is, yeah. Teresa's wonderful. She's so nice and she's really talented. And I think I did 2 or 3 songs on one of her records. She's 15 something years ago ish.
Tim
Yeah.
Guerin?
Yeah, I've recorded percussion on a Tim Guerin on a couple Tim records, and I play with him now once a month, a couple times a month. And Timmy's great. Yeah, Timmy's one of my best friends and just a tremendous songwriter. Yeah.
Very well known around here as well.
Yeah, as well he should be, man. He's fantastic. Yeah.
And GA20?
Yeah. When Matt Stubbs and Pat were putting the band together, Pat Faraday, I sort of started doing some of the first gigs that they had, and then before they got their full-time drummer Tim Carmen, I played on the first record. I recorded on the first GA20 record, and that was fun. That's I like that record a lot. Yeah.
You're in pretty high demand as far. Would you say more for studio or more for live gigs?
Definitely more live, but I do a pretty fair amount of studio stuff. Yeah, but definitely mostly live. Yeah.
It's fantastic, man.
Oh.
Juliana Hatfield, you play on her Police tribute record.
Yeah.
That came out a couple years ago. What I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you before we talked about that was, you and Ed V, basically Ed Velasquez, who's like one of the well-known bass players, not just around here but everywhere. He's a fantastic bass player.
Incredible.
He runs Q Division, the studio. How did that come together where you and Ed, because you did it as a 3-piece when you went on tour, right?
Actually, no. And Ed didn't do the tour. We did the tour with Juliana's old bass player, Dean Fisher from the Juliana Hatfield 3.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no sweat. And so it was me, Dean, and Juliana, and Mike Oram played guitar on that
Okay.
tour. But she does go out a lot as trios, as a trio. But that was a 4-piece. But Ed played on the Police record and got me, introduced me to Juliana. Called me one night at around 1 a.m, texted me actually and said, "Hey, do you want to record some Police songs with Juliana Hatfield tomorrow?" And I was like,
Tomorrow?
"Yeah, tomorrow morning at like 9 or 10 a.m." And I was like, "Jesus, all right, well, okay."
So that preceded the tour.
Yeah, this was I think like a year before. Well, maybe about 8 months or so before. Yeah.
So when Juliana's like, she's just a powerful musician.
She's
you
amazing.
look at her discography, and it's like she puts out a record every single year.
Yeah.
So when Ed got you involved in this, and you went, where did you record those songs?
At the old Q, at the one in Davis Square, just outside of Davis. Yeah.
And you were serious? It was literally the night before?
Yeah. Yeah, we ended up doing 2 or 3 sessions after that, but the first session of like 2 or 3 tunes was the night before. Yeah. And
were you a fan of Stuart Copeland, or did you have to play his parts like him, or?
so thankfully, well, yeah, I'm a huge fan of Stuart Copeland, but thankfully Juliana didn't want me to try to copy his licks because that would have been pretty hilarious, me trying to play that stuff. So yeah, she basically reimagined those tunes in her own style. There's a couple of songs we sort of played, like the Police. But yeah, she didn't want me trying to, and that's for the best too. I don't want to try to copy his. Even if I could pull off his parts, what would be the point?
Right.
So that was the whole thing. Was she wanted to kind of do them in her own
Yeah.
fashion, and she even played drums on I think 2 or 3 songs on that record.
Yeah, she can play anything.
Yeah,
That girl. She's incredible.
Yeah.
Did you happen to hear the Olivia Newton-John cover record she did before you did the Police?
I
one
did.
with
I
her?
heard. Yep, I heard a couple tracks from that. Absolutely, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Did that like blow you away and like, wow, now we're gonna do the Police?
Yeah. I mean, I knew her only as an original songwriting, original artist, and didn't know that she had any ideas to do cover stuff. And so when she put that Olivia Newton-John out, yeah, that was a surprise. But she did a great job on it, and the Police one too. And we do have another. I don't think I can say what the songs are, what the band we're covering is just yet, because I don't know.
I think it's already out there.
Is it out there?
ELO.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if it was. Yeah, so she's.
I heard it somewhere. I don't know where, but I
Yeah.
heard that she's doing an ELO.
Yeah, I
record.
actually think she announced it on her Laundromat Records announced.
You're
it,
gonna
yeah.
play on that too.
So yeah, it's already done. I recorded on that whole record too. So that's
Really?
coming out.
Can you tell us
yeah.
some of the songs that are on the record?
That I might not be able. I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble.
You don't have to
I don't
tell
want to get in trouble, Juliana. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's
Is
good.
Do You're on the record? No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to tell.
So yeah, it's got a lot of great
Do
stuff.
is a Move song, but
Yeah.
still, I mean, I associate it with Jeff.
She
Lynne.
likes to pick deep cut stuff though too. Like the Police record, we did like that song "Landlord," which was like a B-side, and she did "Rehumanize Yourself," stuff that deeper cut stuff as well as hits too. So she's smart. She knows what
So
she's
you
doing.
played on the Police record with her, and then she was getting ready to go on the road, and you went on the road. Now, what was that? What were you playing on that tour?
Oh, so that was just a mix of like all her older catalog and then some of her newer original records, and then also some of the Olivia Newton-John stuff and some of the Police stuff.
How does someone with like 22 albums out all of a sudden come up with a set list and say, I'm going to go on the road now. We're going to play a best of my 22
Yeah.
albums.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would imagine anyone that's been around that long, all the classic bands that have been around for 30 or even 50 years, they must struggle with that all the time. You want to satisfy the crowd with your hits and stuff. And she does. She does a great job. She picks a nice wide array of, from the earliest stuff to the middle to the newest.
What are some of your memories of that tour? Because that was it a national tour or was it regional? or-
No, it was coast to coast actually. We went from from Massachusetts all the way to California and back, and it was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
Is it a blur? Do you remember highlights?
Yeah, those
or-
things are always a bit of a blur, but you have a couple. Now with phones you can go back and look at your videos and pictures. But any tour is always a little bit of a blur.
Were you surprised by her fan base?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's, yeah. I mean, I guess I wasn't. I mean, someone that's been around for, 35 years or something since the first Blake Babies
Yeah.
things, I'm not surprised that she's got such a great following. And they love her, man. I mean, they really do.
Was it a headlining club tour or were you guys support?
we were headlining. Yep, we had some great great bands opening, including the Sunshine Boys from Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're fantastic. If you don't know any of their music, check them out. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know you did the Peppermint Kicks.
Yeah.
We could talk about that a little bit.
That was a blast.
Did you had to record that during the pandemic, so you probably didn't do it all together? Is that what happened?
Yeah, in fact, not at all. Dan and I were never even in the same room. Dan Kopko,
And it was Sal Baglio, Dan
Yep.
Kopko.
Dan and Sal spearheaded it, wrote the songs together. Dan sang most of them. Sal sang a couple. And as far as I can remember, I think, they wrote them together, pretty much wrote them together. Maybe one of them wrote, separately. But, they were great. It was awesome. Dan, who I knew I didn't really know Dan that well, actually.
Did you ever see Watts play? His
I
band?
did. I
Yeah.
saw Watts play, and I actually did a gig where I played in this Mott the Hoople tribute night once, and Dan was one of the singers. And I don't know, he just called me and had these tracks and just kept flying them to me, and I learned how to record drums during the pandemic in my rehearsal space, and it saved my sanity to be.
So you recorded him at your house?
At my rehearsal space
Nice.
in Arlington, small room, and yeah, and in fact that's where we recorded the drums for the new Juliana thing. It turns out you can
And you
do it yourself.
You actually were the engineer?
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And on the Juliana stuff, Ed helped me engineer them, but the peppermint kick stuff, no, I just mic my shit up and can I say shit?
Yeah, you could say fuck too.
Oh wow,
if
I
you
can
want.
fucking swear as well.
You don't
All right.
fucking care.
Fuck this shit.
What about East Boston's own Sal Baglio? Have you ever met Sal? Did you meet him beforehand?
Yeah, I met Sal years and years ago on a gig with this guy Brian Templeton, this blues singer named Brian. He and Sal were old friends, and we did a gig together. But I hadn't seen him in like 10, 12 years.
We're talking Anzalone and Ricardo, a couple
Yeah.
of Italians, are talking about East Boston's own mayor of the Italian mayor of East Boston, Sal Baglio.
Sal and we may as well have known each other for 50 years. I mean, we're going to just talk about Italian meats and
I felt that
grandmothers and stuff.
When I had not met Sal, and then he came on my show, and after sitting here and talking to him for like 45 minutes, I felt like he's my third cousin from
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, my Uncle Mike's barbershop in East Boston, I mean, I don't know if you listen to that show, but he knew my Uncle Mike. He went to my Uncle Mike's barbershop.
Oh,
Isn't
cool.
that crazy?
Yeah, everything was so easy with him. It was just right away. It was like, oof, Maron. Like we were both just a couple of Boston idiots, Boston Italian goofballs.
Have the Peppermint Kicks ever actually played a show?
Yeah, I did. I did one with them. I felt so bad because we put this record together, and then Dan kept asking me to do gigs that I couldn't do. I couldn't. We couldn't make the dates work. But we did do one last year. I think it was last December. Yeah, at Square Root in Roslindale, which is a great club.
Did you like playing with those guys live?
Oh yeah, it was great. It was with Brad Helene on bass, who I'm sure you know.
Brad's been on the show too. That means almost everyone in the Peppermint Kicks has been on the show.
That's awesome. Brad's great. Yeah.
He's in the Nervous Eaters now.
Yep.
But he's like you. He's got this long history of all these bands.
Brad's got a lot on me there, man. He has got the resume,
So, as far as rhythm sections go, Haggerty, real good. Ed V, real good. Brad Helene, real good. You played with all those guys.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate to play with some great guys. I'm very, very grateful. I never take it for granted, Yeah, and Ed, all those guys are great, and Ed especially has really, him getting me, into the Juliana thing and a number of other things. He's Ed's a real mover and shaker, and he gets the community together, pulls people together, makes things happen. He's a great guy, great bass player, great guy.
This is probably going to be a hard question for you. I would never know the answer. You probably don't either. How many bands would you say you're currently part of right now?
Jesus, I don't know. That's going to sound silly. I don't know.
Well, you're playing a lot of regular gigs, though,
yeah.
right?
I mean, sometimes you'll play with someone once a year, and I can't really call that a band that I play. I mean, it is a band I play with, but I mean, regularly, I don't know, like 10 different bands or something. That call that.
Who's the most consistent band that you play out with?
Well, it's funny because after Roomful, I've been freelancing, so I'm trying to think like
Fandango.
That's probably the most consistent because we do 2 Wednesdays a month, and I've been doing that for 12 years.
Stylistic.
But we don't play anywhere else. We just
how
play
would you describe that band stylistically?
That's a mixed bag too. That's like blues, soul, a little bit of reggae, a little bit of old rock and roll. And that's a really fun band. That's with Fred Griffith. Fred from the Family Jewels?
Yep.
And yeah. And I play with them quite a bit. And then, once or twice a month with Tim Guerin, once or twice a month with Chris Cody, Dennis Brennan with the band called the True Vines that we have.
Dennis Brennan, that's a legend.
Dennis is he's royalty, no doubt. And Danielle Moralia. I'm in a band with her.
She's been playing around for a long time too.
Tonight I'm playing with a blues singer named Diane Blue.
Wait a second. You played last night with one band. You playing tonight with a different band. Does that happen every weekend?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's kind of
And
crazy.
we haven't even got to your record store yet. I don't know how you run a record store
Yeah.
with a career, with a life like this.
I'm exhausted.
I wanted to ask you about other guys around town. Like, are there other drummers that you admire around town?
Oh yeah, yeah, many. Guys like Tom Airy, guys like Mark Teixeira, and especially guys like Mike Peel and Andy Plaisted, because those guys for me, when I met them, I'm a little younger than them, and when I was like 25, 26 or so, and starting to really come out to, not just be in like rock bands from high school, but starting to come out and see like working musicians, I saw those guys. I saw Andy and Mike, and I was like, I really learned so much from watching those guys play. Those guys are,
when I was in your store, we were talking about Reverse. Sad
Yeah.
about Ian Kennedy, because
Yeah,
Reverse
jeez.
was a great band.
Yeah.
Mike Peel was
Yeah.
their drummer.
Killer band, absolutely. But yeah, guys like that. I mean, there's, and I could name a ton of other local drummers too that I peers that I look up to. But yeah, those guys. When I saw those two play though in the mid to late '90s, I was like, oh, those are professional drummers, and I learned so much from them. Absolutely.
Let's talk about you mentioned your teacher before. What was his name?
Bob Galati.
He's pretty famous.
Yeah.
So you took lessons for a long time from him?
Yeah. I studied with him from when I was 21 till I was about 25, maybe 4 years, 3.5 years or something. Bob completely changed my life. Any drummer that you have on here from, if you ever find out they play with Bob, they'll say the same thing. Change their lives.
And where is he? Is he like at Berkeley or?
I think he did teach at some schools. I think he did. Yeah, he definitely taught at Berkeley, and but his main thing though was the private lessons at his house in Waltham. And I'll never forget. Yeah, first night I saw him, spoke to him on the break. I was at his house 3 days later. Nervous, and he just changed so much for me.
And you ended up also teaching?
Yeah, I never really dove in fully on teaching, just because I love playing live, and and never really it's tough to build up like a teaching enough students to make it really worth it. I never had a space that I could do it like at my house, and so I'd go to people's houses, or I would teach out of a music school or something. But
would they be more established kind of drummers, or would they be?
No, it was all kids.
Kids,
and this is.
That must be
I don't
hard.
want to sound like an asshole, but I hate teaching kids.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't like. Well, I'm not gonna say I don't like kids in general.
I love
because
kids.
I've got nieces and nephews, but
No,
I don't have any
I
of my
love
own.
kids. It's just, it was never anything that really thrilled me. You know what I mean? I never, it's just, yeah. I'll leave it at that.
That's okay. All right. Most recently, first of all, did you work at, like, you own a record store, Stereo Jacks, which
Yeah.
I love. I've gone in there.
Oh, thanks.
Every time I've been in like 3 or 4 times, and I've left with records in my hand. So it's like Joe from Joe's Albums was in the room here a little while ago, and you guys met each other.
Yeah.
Did you work at a record store for a long time, or when did you start working at record stores?
Yeah, no, I had never worked at one.
Never.
It was only after the pandemic, maybe 6 months after the pandemic started. What was it, like mid-March, that Stereo Jacks when they were in Cambridge, they opened back up, and one of their employees, just because of COVID, didn't want to come back, and they asked me to work. And so, with nothing else to do, no gigs or anything, I was working there once a week, sometimes twice a week.
It's a dream job.
It was awesome. I had been shopping there since I was 20. Getting yelled at by Jack. I got yelled at a lot in my life, in my musical life. Yeah, no.
You don't have to tell me everyone that yelled at you.
No, but yeah, it was really that was one of the bright moments of the pandemic. Was I got to start working there. Charlie Colhays, who's been working there forever, he basically was the one that hired me, and so it was great. It was great. Within no time, I was like, it'd be kind of cool to run a record store.
So how did you get to point A, from point A to point B?
I mean, the idea of when I first started working there and thinking, it would be cool to do this. It was just kind of talking out of my, But then as the longer I worked there, the more it became sort of news around the store that they were going to be possibly going out of business because a marijuana dispensary was going to be moving in. But it was still kind of like, it was a little foggy as to whether that was going to happen or not, because the people trying to open the dispensary were having troubles getting the licenses and blah blah. Long story short, the word finally came down that the landlord they got the license. The landlord was going to basically kick Jack out, price him out. So I just asked Jack how much he would charge, to sell me the store. I don't know. It just popped into my head, and I asked him, and he came up with a number, and and that was that. And
And you know what's amazing about this, Chris, is you got a location right after a brand new T stop for people in other parts of the country. It's the subway system here in Boston's called the T. Opens up right practically across the street from your location, which connects Tufts University kids that live in your neighborhood and anywhere else to Boston. You can get to your store. Did you have any idea that was going to happen when you got the location?
Yeah, because I live in the area. I live a 2-minute drive.
You live
from
in
it.
Somerville?
Yeah, we live in.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, by the way, Ruth, your wife, is awesome.
Right, you met
Gonna
Ruth.
mention Ruth here on the show.
I would like to say also that I could not have done this. I couldn't have had this record store without her.
Amusia was the band she was in?
Yeah, Ruth's a great singer.
I remember her old band Amusia.
Yep, they were called Amusia, and then they were called the Wild Sea. It was the same band, just a different name. And she's a fabulous singer. She put out a single last year that Ed and I played on.
Oh, I got to hear that. I haven't heard it.
Yep, yeah, I'll send it to you.
But I had to stick Ruth in there for a second.
No, she deserves some
you,
mention. Yeah,
you get a location right at the talk about that.
Yeah, we got really lucky. And I had seen, just driving around Somerville because I live there, that I'd seen the T under construction for a couple of years now. You know, and so I knew that was coming. That's not why I chose this place, but I just chose this place because I was driving by there, and I saw it was empty, and found the owner next door, and we just handshake deal right there, and I really got lucky with that location.
When I said that, I didn't necessarily mean that a lot of people that had come there with because of the tea, but whenever a tea stop opens up like that, the neighborhood
it's great
becomes popular, and you already have a decent diner there and some decent restaurants.
Yep. No, I think
B-Sides, is that the name of that?
Oh, there's two diners there. There's the
Kelly's.
And now I'm blanking. There's three. I'm sorry. There's Kelly's. There's Sound Bites. And,
Yeah,
and Ball Square Cafe too. Yeah.
Yeah, those are great places too.
Three brunch places on like one block.
So you don't have to worry about getting food when you're working. That's for sure.
Yeah, plenty of food.
So I like your store a lot.
Thanks.
And I know that because I usually leave there with records under my arm because I'm a big vinyl guy.
Yeah.
So were you a big vinyl guy?
When I was a kid, because we're both old now, you and I. We grew up with vinyl. I mean, that's what vinyl and cassettes. But by the time I was 17, 18, CDs were just taking over. So I really gave up on vinyl, throughout the 90s and even the first, the 2000s. I only got back into vinyl because actually my wife's dad passed away, and we got his in like 2011. We got his vinyl collection, and it was beautiful
Really?
jazz collection. Yeah.
Whoa.
So I had to go get a turntable. So I got back into it. Started going back to stereo jacks. I hadn't been back to jacks in years.
Was Ruth's father living in Nashville?
Yeah.
Because she's from Nashville.
From Nashville,
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a professor at Vanderbilt.
Oh, that's a great college.
Yeah. He was a heavy dude. Yep. Yeah.
I stayed in that neighborhood. A friend of mine, John Scarpati, who's a rock photographer, he shot a lot of big bands. I stayed at his house once.
Oh, nice.
And he was right in that neighborhood where Vanderbilt was. I know there's a lot of turmoil right now in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but there is some good things about the area.
Sure, absolutely.
Ruth is from there.
Ruth
She's pretty cool.
She's pretty cool. Yeah, she is great. Absolutely.
So how would you describe how the record store business is these days?
It's busy. We're doing good.
Like,
No,
are you doing a lot of buying too?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you seem to have a lot of.
Constantly buying. The used stuff, there's nowhere else to get used stuff other than people selling their collection. I mean, you can go buy stuff on Craigslist or whatever, but you do your best deals when people are coming through the door, bringing them in. And we order reissued, new stuff too.
Yeah, you
But,
have a good.
yeah.
You got a good new and used
Yeah,
section,
good
but
balance.
I loved your used section. I bought a bunch of used from you.
Yeah, we've been lucky so far. We keep getting
Good prices too, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
People out there listening, I would highly recommend Stereo Jacks.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, we've been lucky. We have a lot of people selling us records. I was there this morning before I came here and bought 100 records from somebody that just walked through the door, and so that's how that works.
So is there a lot of rare stuff coming in these days?
Last week we got, this past Monday, we just got a really good rare, not a big collection, but a good small rare collection of rare Blue Note pressings.
Blue Note?
Yeah, Blue Note and Prestige stuff, original pressing stuff.
Coltrane?
Yep, we did. We got one Train record. Most of it is some obscure shit though. But yeah.
So how are you determining how to price that stuff when it comes in?
So I have my manager, this guy Wayne Rogers. I hired him because he's got 40 years of experience working and owning record shops, and he's my guy. We all do pricing and stuff, but he's the guy that can price it like that. I'm learning. I'm the newbie in the shop. I'm the rookie. They're all teaching me. And then after a while, you see certain titles and this is this price, this is that price. But there are things that we have to look up. You look up things on, sales sites like Discogs, and you look, based on sales and averages and stuff. And, and we always try to go a little lower than that. But, yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're like this, but if I owned a record store and there were certain records that would come in and I'd look at them and I go, I'm not fucking selling this record. Are you like that too?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's... especially this batch of jazz stuff that came in. I would love to have taken it all home, but you got to be careful. You got to pick your spots. You don't want to take too much of your own stock home. You got to sell, got to pay the bills.
Do you have distributors that call you up with the new stuff, or do you?
Yeah, we've got. I think there's three or four places. Three or four places we order from. Yeah, they're great. Within a couple days, they deliver, and it's great. They've got tons of titles,
Do you regard your clientele that comes in here, or is it so mixed that it doesn't really matter?
You know what? I feel like it's pretty mixed. Again, this is my manager Wayne's area. I just let him order. He orders a lot of the basic stuff, the Beatles and Zeppelin and the Stones and that kind of stuff.
The classic rock always is going to sell.
Yeah, it's
it?
always going to sell, but he mixes in cool, weird stuff too, and even if it's something that takes a little while to sell, it's good to have. We're not a niche store. We're not catering to one kind of thing. We just want to keep good records in, all different kinds of stuff.
Are the college kids interested in vinyl?
Yeah.
Because you got Tufts right down the road, and Harvard and MIT and not far away.
Yeah. No, it's hard to tell sometimes who the college kids are because, some of the people who are just out of college and working, look like they could, but I think we're doing pretty well with the college crowd. Yeah. Business has been good.
I didn't ask Joe from Joe's Albums was here earlier, and I didn't ask him this question, but I'll ask you. How do you decide what you want to play in your store?
So yeah, we all take turns. And Charlie Colhase he's very strict about our turns. You can't go out of turn with him. Some of the other employees we can go out of turn, but with Charlie it's whatever. I mean, we could put on a Miles record, and then the next record could be the B-52s. It's just, it's great. You got your own little record collection, huge record collection right there. Flip around till something, I try to listen to stuff I haven't heard before. I'm always trying to,
Do you feel like you're what word am I looking for here? Are you listening to a lot more music that you wouldn't have listened to before?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely, and especially again, Wayne. I'm gonna give Wayne a lot of credit. Wayne's introduced me to a lot of really cool punk, like early punk or psychedelic rock from the psych rock from the '60s that I would not have known. You know what I
The
mean?
hardcore and punk records are valuable. Are they hard
Yeah.
to do
Yep.
you get a lot show up at your store, or do you realize when something comes in that you're like, wow?
Yeah, they don't show up that much, and they are
And
definitely
they go fast when they do
they
show
go
up.
real fast, and they're expensive. Yeah.
Do you have a theory about that? Why do you think all of a sudden all these records from the early 80s and late 70s are so popular? Was it because they didn't make enough?
I mean, certain guys, certain bands, like I don't know, like Johnny Thunders. I mean, he didn't sell millions of copies, right? So that's just it's great music, and it's like there's just I mean, a copy, Led Zeppelin albums, the Beatles albums, they printed the bejesus out of them. You know what I mean? There's millions and millions of copies, but stuff like that, say like a Johnny Thunders thing, that's just there's just not as many of them,
Right.
And it's great. It's great music too, but and so it is actually a little kind of rare. Like Beatles albums actually aren't rare.
Right. Yeah, I remember Two
really not.
Virgins used to be worth a fortune, and now I saw a copy at a store not too long ago for $20, and I was like,
Yeah.
I thought Two Virgins was like worth hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, I guess maybe depending on what pressing you have too. There's that whole side of it. Is it original? Is it a second pressing? Is it?
Do you have anything in your store right now that's up on the wall or behind the counter that's that's really expensive?
Yeah, we have a few records in there right now that are like $200-300 a piece. We just sold something the other day for a ridiculous amount of money. I don't even want to say. Some of the Blue Note jazz rarity records go for obscene.
Is there any rock records besides the early hardcore and punk that are really valuable these days that you have?
Yeah, I mean, we just sold a copy of Velvet Underground's, Nico, the
Oh, yeah,
Warhol
yeah.
banana,
The banana cover.
Yeah, we just sold that for pretty big money.
It's a good one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else.
Warhol, Nico, and
Yeah.
Lou Reed. I'm wearing my Lou Reed shirt today.
Lou.
Transformer.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah.
Well, hey, man, I'm glad you came down. I want to give you an opportunity. Oh, one other thing. Record Store Day. Do you have anything planned for that?
So yeah, I'm actually glad you asked because it's good to get the word out. We are actually not going to be participating in Record Store Day this year because this is nothing against Record Store Day, but you have to register with Record Store Day way in advance to actually participate. And we just, by the time we opened up and got our feet, by the time we got settled,
late.
It was too late. So next year, Record Store Day, but not this year, which is okay.
It's okay.
It's fine.
It doesn't matter. People are still going to show up at your store.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but
like
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like your store a lot. I mean,
Oh,
the
thanks.
first time I walked in there, I just wanted to meet you, and then I got lost in the vinyl.
I'm glad you came by, man. It's great to finally meet you, and yeah.
Before you go, is there any shows or things coming up that you want to plug? I mean, or records you're going to be playing on or that are coming out or anything like that? Here's your opportunity, Mr. Anzalone. Did I say it right? Anzalone.
You did. Let me see if I can.
See that? I
pull up
know
my-
how to say the name right. Anzalone.
Let me see. Oh wait. I got a fun Here's a fun show. I'm playing with Dennis Brennan at the Square Root on April 28th.
A few weeks away.
Yeah. Yep. At the Square Root in Roslindale. But I mean, yeah, I'm playing yeah.
You're always playing.
I'm
though.
always playing. I don't know. None of it's that special. Don't worry. You're not missing anything. No. But yeah, I'm gonna be recording some songs with Dan again. Actually, Dan Kopko again. Yeah,
nice.
He's got a new batch of tunes he wants me to play on.
For Peppermint Kicks, or is it
I
solo?
don't know if
Or
I think it might be solo. I'm not sure. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, gonna be.
Dan's a good guy.
I'm gonna be recording a couple tunes for John Pohida's new record next week. John.
Yeah, John Pohida's International Airport.
Yeah. John's great. I played a bunch on his last record. He's a brilliant songwriter as well.
Yeah. Boston has always been deep-rooted in talent. I mean, it's no different now than it was 20 years ago, is it?
No, I think
Or
there's-
30 years
there's
ago.
Great artists. There's a lot of great singer-songwriters in the rock area. John Pohida, Andrea Gillis. Andrea's great. I've played on her last record.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but she's
See what I mean? I
she's
didn't even
awesome.
get to all the things you played.
No,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, I didn't mean to name drop so much. But Andrea, I've just because I wanted to mention Andrea. She's a great singer-songwriter. Her husband, Mark Panansky, is a great singer-songwriter. If you know Mark. Band Township.
Yeah, Family Township.
Family Township,
Family
yeah.
Township.
Yep. And his own solo stuff, too, yeah. So many good people, yeah.
I know Andrea from, the Abbey Lounge.
Yeah.
Way back when.
Yep.
Well, not that far back, like early 2000s.
That's a ways ago now,
Yeah.
man.
Andrea's done really well, man.
Oh,
She's been at it for a while now. I'm going to get her on the show soon. Been meaning to talk to her about coming on the show. I got to track her down. Definitely.
Right on. She'd be a great interview. Yeah. She's a hot shit.
Thanks a lot, man. I know you're a very busy guy. So for you to come down here on a Saturday morning and record, I really appreciate it.
Man, it's my pleasure, and thank you so much.
My pleasure. That's the first time I've shaken hands on the show.
Oh wow, I didn't.
And it's on video.
Yeah, well,
too.
there we go. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey, thank you so much.
All right.
Yep.